All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning. To officially welcome back Kelly Krauskopf as president of basketball business.
This is something no one saw coming. The woman leading the Indiana Fever organization finally broke her silence during a media session, and her comments immediately shook the basketball world. Her words did more than spark debate. They exposed the pressure behind the scenes, the politics, the locker room challenges, and the ongoing struggle between building a championship team and growing a global brand. They also changed the way many people viewed Caitlin Clark's situation in Indiana. To understand why, you have to go back to the beginning. Before Clark arrived, the Indiana Fever had become one of the WNBA's least successful teams. They won just 6 games in 2021, 5 in 2022, and 13 in 2023. For more than a decade, the franchise had little attention, empty seats, limited media coverage, and almost no excitement around the team. Even those inside the organization never imagined how far the franchise had fallen. Everything changed when the Fever selected Caitlin Clark with the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft. She did more than transform the team. She changed the entire league. Arenas sold out, television ratings reached record highs, jerseys sold at an incredible pace, and women's basketball experienced a level of attention never seen before. As the excitement grew, the Fever faced a major decision. Would they simply enjoy the momentum or build the organization around it? That is when the front office made a move that surprised many people. With a once-in-a-generation talent leading the franchise, the team believed it needed someone who truly understood the opportunity in front of them. Kelly Krauskopf was named president of basketball and business operations, a choice that looked perfect on paper. She already knew the organization well after helping the Fever win the 2012 championship. Her introduction was filled with optimism, but some of the things she said during her first press conference quietly raised concerns. Most people overlooked those comments at the time, but months later they would take on a completely different meaning. The warning signs had been there from the start. Almost no one noticed them until everything began to fall apart. Caitlin Clark's injury in July 2025 created serious concern for the Indiana Fever. A lingering groin injury had limited her to just 11 games. And with the team fighting for a playoff spot, the pressure continued to grow. Fans were already frustrated when on that same day, a video from Kelly Krauskopf's introductory press conference in October 2024 suddenly resurfaced across social media. As people watched it again, many focused on a statement they had overlooked the first time. Looking directly into the cameras, Krauskopf explained that while Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark were the team's cornerstone players and the organization planned to keep building around them, the larger goal was to create an enduring brand that could stand the test of time. Similar to Apple, those comments quickly spread across the internet and sparked a nationwide debate. Many fans felt the message suggested the organization was placing the franchise above the generational superstar who had completely changed its future. The Apple comparison became the center of the discussion because many pointed out that Apple's success was deeply connected to Steve Jobs, whose vision turned the company into one of the world's biggest brands. To Clark's supporters, the comparison seemed to overlook the fact that she was the driving force behind the Fever's incredible rise in popularity. Social media exploded with reactions. One fan wrote that lasting brands are built around extraordinary people, not by separating themselves from them. Another argued that the Fever would one day realize they had wasted the greatest opportunity in women's basketball if Clark ever became frustrated enough to leave. Similar opinions flooded comment sections, podcasts, and message boards, with thousands insisting that you never minimize the biggest player in franchise history. The criticism was no longer just emotional frustration from loyal fans. It had become a much larger conversation about leadership, branding, and whether the organization truly understood the historic impact Caitlin Clark had already made on the team, the league, and women's basketball as a whole. As the backlash continued to grow, someone inside the organization appeared to recognize just how serious the situation had become. After the old video of Kelly Krauskopf's comments spread across social media, a related post was quietly deleted, and the account that shared it disappeared only a few hours after the clip went viral. Instead of responding with a public statement or trying to calm the growing controversy, the organization stayed silent, making the entire situation even more confusing. While the front office avoided the discussion, the players who shared the court with Caitlin Clark every night began telling a very different story. In a Glamour magazine profile, Clark's teammate and close friend Lexi Hull spoke honestly about the impact Clark had made on the Indiana Fever. Hull explained that before Clark arrived, very few players were eager to wear a Fever jersey. But that changed almost overnight because of the attention, excitement, and national spotlight Clark brought to the franchise. She also said there had been growing jealousy around the league since Clark entered the WNBA. According to Hull, teams openly discussed the Fever more than ever before, and many opponents viewed Indiana differently because of Clark's presence. Her comments suggested the Fever were no longer treated as just another team. They had become the league's biggest attraction, and every opponent wanted to make a statement against them. Sophie Cunningham echoed that message by making it clear she would always stand up for Clark whenever opponents crossed the line. Cunningham said she had heard conversations around the league suggesting that some teams were focused on sending a message to Clark rather than simply trying to win games. Throughout the season, Clark repeatedly faced hard fouls and aggressive physical play, leading many fans and analysts to believe she was being targeted. Several controversial incidents sparked growing criticism of the officiating, with many questioning whether referees were doing enough to protect one of the league's biggest stars. As the season went on, the physical play never seemed to slow down, and concerns about Clark's safety only became louder. When a lingering groin injury eventually ended her season after just 13 games, many people believed the warning signs had been there all along. Supporters, media members, and basketball analysts increasingly argued that the league had failed to properly protect the player who had transformed the Indiana Fever. Boosted television ratings filled arenas across the country, and brought an unprecedented level of attention to women's basketball. What started as concern over one injury had grown into a much larger debate about player protection, league leadership, and whether the WNBA had done enough to safeguard its biggest attraction. But that was only the beginning. As more details came out, people started getting a clearer picture of what life was really like for Caitlin Clark behind the scenes. Many critics had claimed that she was causing problems inside the team, that veteran players disliked the attention surrounding her, and that her rapid rise to stardom had created divisions the Fever could never overcome. Those stories continued to spread throughout the 2024 and 2025 seasons. Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops even suggested on a podcast in September 2024 that some important people within the organization were not fully embracing Clark, and that the team was struggling to handle everything that came with her fame. The rumors quickly became part of the national conversation, but Clark rarely responded. Even when she appeared on Diana Taurasi's podcast, she stayed calm and refused to fuel the drama. She explained that people often believe they know what happens behind closed doors, even though they really do not. Meanwhile, her teammates continued to show their support through their actions. When Clark returned from injury during the 2025 season, her teammates celebrated with her, interrupted her post-game interview to join the moment, and made it clear she was an important part of the group. After the Fever captured the Commissioner's Cup, the locker room celebration looked genuine, with players laughing, hugging, and enjoying the victory together. Those moments painted a very different picture from the one many critics had been describing. The real question was never whether Clark was accepted by her teammates. It was whether the front office was willing to fully build the franchise around the player who had transformed it. The evidence inside the locker room suggested the relationships were real. Lexi Hull consistently supported Clark, while Aaliyah Boston had formed a close friendship with her even before they became teammates. New additions like Sophie Cunningham openly praised Clark, and rookie Michaela Timpson also spoke highly of her. After the expansion draft, Clark publicly thanked teammates Chloe Bibby and Christy Wallace with heartfelt messages on social media, showing that the bonds within the team extended beyond the basketball court. Those friendships were genuine, but strong relationships alone do not win championships. That remained the challenge facing the Fever throughout Kelly Krauskopf's leadership. Looking back at her October 2024 press conference, many people focused only on the Apple comparison and overlooked another important part of her message. Krauskopf said she wanted to build a lasting organization that could succeed for generations, pointing out that Caitlin Clark was only 10 years old when Indiana won its last WNBA championship in 2012. Her point was that building a championship culture can take years, and that today's success could inspire the next generation of players just as the Fever's past success inspired Clark. Whether fans viewed those comments as long-term vision or a sign that the organization was not fully centered on its biggest star depended on their perspective. What could not be denied was that the debate over the Fever's priorities had become one of the biggest stories in women's basketball. Fans did not begin packing Indiana Fever games in 2024 because of a logo or a marketing campaign. They came to see Caitlin Clark. Thousands of people drove across the country, paid record ticket prices, and filled arenas at levels the WNBA had never experienced before. The league simply was not prepared for the overwhelming demand she created. When Clark missed games because of injuries, the impact was immediate. Attendance dropped, television ratings declined, and viewership fell in ways that were measurable and widely reported. Her value to both the Fever and the entire league became impossible to deny. Even with that evidence, much of the organization's public messaging continued to emphasize the franchise and its long-term vision instead of the player responsible for the historic growth. Still, one statement Kelly Krauskopf made during her introductory press conference turned out to be remarkably accurate. She said that any smart basketball player would want the opportunity to play with Caitlin Clark because of the way she makes everyone around her better. That prediction quickly became reality. Indiana transformed into one of the WNBA's most desirable destinations, with veteran players reportedly willing to accept smaller contracts for the chance to join Clark. They were drawn not only by sold-out arenas and national attention, but also by the opportunity to compete alongside one of the most exciting players in the sport. Clark's presence changed the culture of the franchise and made the Fever a team that players wanted to be part of. Looking ahead to 2026 and beyond, the organization continued reshaping its roster after the WNBA expansion draft, which sent Christy Wallace to Toronto and Chloe Bibby to Portland. Clark's second season, expected to be a breakout campaign, instead became a difficult year because of injuries. She appeared in only 13 regular season games, but still earned an all-star selection after averaging 16.5 points, 8.5 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. Even while sitting on the bench in street clothes, she remained the league's biggest attraction and the center of nearly every major basketball discussion. At the same time, Krauskopf pointed to the future by highlighting the Fever's planned $78 million performance center, which is scheduled to open in 2027. The facility is intended to become a first-class home for the organization and attract elite players for years to come. But the bigger question remains whether the people making decisions today fully understand the unique opportunity they have, right? Now, and whether they will make the moves necessary before that opportunity slips away. Every debate surrounding the Fever's front office, every conversation about Clark's teammates, and every rumor involving the locker room all lead back to one undeniable reality. In just 1 year, the Indiana Fever went from being one of the least successful teams in the WNBA to the most watched and most talked about franchise in women's basketball. That kind of transformation does not happen because of branding strategies or business plans alone. It happens because a once-in-a-generation player changes everything, and for the Indiana Fever, that player has been Caitlin Clark. Historic turnarounds happen because of once-in-a-generation athletes who inspire everyone around them and make their sport more exciting, more competitive, and more valuable. That is why so many fans reacted strongly to the Indiana Fever president's comments about building a brand like Apple. To many supporters, the concern was not about creating a successful organization. It was the fear that the franchise might place more importance on the brand than on the generational player who made that growth possible. Fans pointed to other organizations that struggled after losing the star who had defined their success, arguing that no logo or marketing strategy can replace a truly transformational athlete. Inside the Fever locker room, however, the players seemed to understand exactly what Caitlin Clark meant to the team. They experienced her impact every day, and that appreciation often showed through interviews, celebrations, and social media posts. Time and again, teammates praised her, celebrated her success, and made it clear that playing alongside Clark was a unique opportunity. Their actions consistently suggested that they valued not only her talent, but also the energy and attention she brought to the franchise. As each game, sideline conversation, and post-game celebration unfolded, the message remained the same. Opportunities like this do not come around often. For the Indiana Fever, the challenge is not recognizing that a rare opportunity exists. The challenge is making the right decisions while that opportunity is still in front of them. Whether the organization can fully capitalize on this moment will ultimately determine how this era is remembered. One thing is certain. The window to build something truly special is open right now, and opportunities like this rarely stay open forever.